Hi everyone, by the end of this video we will have a Django CRUD Rest API application linked to a Postgres container, and we will run both the services using Docker Compose. We will create a Docker container, a Docker image, and then a container on the Django app, and we will do this from scratch step by step. I will use GitHub Copilot, but I'll explain line by line what I will do. This is my style. I'll also use Table Plus to check the database, and Postman to check the API. So we can start. So let's start from the architecture. So we have this single slide, I promise, and this is basically our application. This is a Django application, and we will have 5 functions, endpoints. The language, of course, is Python 3. We will use a Dockerfile to create this image, and then we'll connect it with the Postgres DB. Okay, this is a series when I use it with different languages and different technologies. So if you already saw some videos, this structure probably is familiar to you. Now, which are the requirements? The requirements are the Docker installed and up and running on your machine. Then we have the we have the Django admin CLI that we will install, and that's it, I think. Python, Docker, and of course any tool to test the API. So the Django admin CLI is a tool to create Django projects. So what I'll do is I go here on the workspace, and I can make a directory called live. It exists. Okay, perfect. Nice. Okay, so I am in the directory that I want to use here. So first of all, let's install the Django admin CLI. So pip install Django admin CLI. In this case, it says, okay, it's already installed, but this is the command, okay? Pip admin install Django admin CLI. Now, if you, first of all, let's check if we have Python. We have Python, and we have Docker installed. So Python and Docker are installed. Also, in my case, maybe you have to reset the command line terminal, Django admin -- version. We have also the Django admin CLI. Now, to create a project, we use simply this Django-admin start project, which is a command, and then the name of our project. And here Django is a bit tricky. So let's go with Django project. Okay. Perfect. And as you can see here, it created a Django project folder. Okay. Now we step into this folder. Okay. And let's see something a bit strange. We have another Django project folder inside the Django project. This was a bit strange to me. And yes. Now, inside the project, we need to create an app. It sounds a bit strange, but it is what. So Python manage. This was a bit. It's very strange if you create a JavaScript project when you have just the app. So startup Django app. If you are interested into learning Django, remember to check now, because we will create this app. Okay, and now let's do ls-l. As you can see, we have a Django app and Django project. Let's open the project with our favorite IDE. In my case, I use VS Code. Okay, a bit bigger. Nice. And so this is the first thing to check. We have a folder called Django project and a folder called Django app. So we will work on both these directories. The Django project is for the settings, and the Django app is basically to add the logic to our app. Our Django project will have just a single app, but we created like an app inside a project, okay? So it's a bit, Django is meant to have to do big projects. Nice. Now, to install the dependencies, we can do this in different ways. For example, doing pip install. I'll do a slight different way because I think that it's more convenient if you already know which are the dependencies that you want to install. So I create a requirements.txt file manually, and I write down my dependencies that right down here. So Django equal, and version I think 3.2.5. Then we have three dependencies. One is Django, one is psychopg2.binary, which is for the connection with the Postgres database. And then we have this Django REST framework. And so this is a difference. So we need this Django REST framework because by default, Django returns HTML files, views. Instead, we want to create a set of CRUD API that we can access using Postman. Okay? Nice. Now, again, check these two directories. We want to do the settings. So this part is very intimidating because if you don't go on Django project on the settings, we have this big file with a lot of stuff, okay? And I don't like this approach, but anyway, this is what we have with Django. So here we need to change three things. One is the, you were not late. One is OS, which is basically to interact with the operating system and work with the environment variables. Then we need to do something a bit strange, to add the installed apps. Here we see a lot of stuff, but I'm not using this. I need Django app. So basically I need to inform the Django project that the Django app has been added. I don't know why it's not added automatically. And then also the REST framework. This is used to work with the API and not views. I don't want to return an HTML view. No, I want to return JSON files using Postman. Nice. Now, another tricky part. You see here there are a lot of stuff that I'm gonna ignore, but we have this, which is databases. So Django already has an embedded DB, which might be good, but I don't like it. I need to change this default DB with the Postgres one, otherwise I use the SQLite 3. Okay, nice. So let's see here. I don't want to do dumb mistakes. So we will get engine, which is basically how we want to. Okay, so it's this. And it keeps saying SQLite, but Postgres. So we want to use a Postgres DB. Then we need a name, which is a bit tricky, but is, no, wait here. So here I want to be, no, okay. Here we need this os.environment. So this is because it will use this by default as an environment variable. I'll call it db_driver. If we don't have this, we will have something as a backup. Okay. So it will use this environment variable, otherwise it uses this one. Now, we can have this. Usually the name is the name of the DB, because you see database's name, it's not the username, it's the name of the database. And this is pg_db. Okay. Otherwise, it will be Postgres, but it will be Postgres anyway. But I wanted to give an option. Name. Now we need user. So user let's see here, OS. GitHub Copilot is not helping at all. Perfect. Get, and here we will have PG user, so an environment variable for the user. Otherwise, okay, it's well. Sometimes GitHub Copilot just forgets that it exists. Now, the host, this is super important, it's a PG host or local host, in case we don't pass an environment variable. So a good thing is that we can also, in this case, run the app locally without an environment variable passed by Docker. And then the port. Now, I don't know if I got it right, but let's say that for now I'm happy with this. Now, OS, perfect. Now, let's go and create our structure. So usually I start with the models. So here, as you see, we are in the Django app folder when we want to create our model. And here we can have a class called user. Usually I create a class called user. This is very overwhelming, so I'm gonna remove everything and get just a name and a name and an email. As an email, I just use a char field. I don't want validation here for the email. Okay, so I'll leave it as it is for now. Now we need to do something. Since we are using a Python doesn't have a natively JSON object, JSON JavaScript object, we can say. So we need something which is called a serializer. So now this is not complicated to create once you know that you need a serializer. So serializers. There is no way to escape. You have to create this or use it in some ways. Now, let's import a couple of imports because we want to return data directly from the API. And now from .models, we import the user. So this class, it will be used to serialize our user. And the class name is meta, model user, and fields also. This class will be used to serialize our class objects. Okay, nice. Now we have another file here already prepared, which is called views.py. Now I don't want to change the name of this file because otherwise I should change the structure of the project. But these views will be basically the controller. Okay. So first of all, let's make a couple of imports. We have REST. As you can see, we are using the REST framework. It wants to respond. We need the response because we want just the response and not the views. Okay. And now from REST underscore framework dot decorators, we want some decorators that to make our life easier. We want to import the model of the user and the serializer. So these are the imports. Now get and basically here we are creating the controllers for the application. Now let's start by getting all the users. We have this decorator with a get. It means that this will be called when we'll do a get request. We will talk about routes later. And so this is the name of the function. Let's see if this convinces me. Yeah, yes. We have this, and here, to be honest, it's very convenient. I have to say that Django here is very easy to use because you have the users object dot all, and we basically get all the users that are in our DB, no matter the DB and the logic. So and the style. So this is a very I like it a lot. So now to get a single user, because usually, as I said, I create two different endpoints. This can also be handled with the logic inside a single function. Usually I prefer two different functions. So I don't know, it's easier. I prefer this approach. In this case, sorry, we have this function called get user, and basically we have this user.objects.get. Perfect. And we have, and then we get this. Now, in this project, we will not handle errors. If we have time, probably we'll do it. But let's see. Let's see how much time do we have. So now, to create a user, to add a user, as you can see here, you have to say that the syntax of Python is very good. So here we have this function called add user. We have this with the serializer. Basically, we get in input the JSON object from the body, and then if it's valid, we save it in the DB. Okay, it will not throw an error if we have an error, so we still should need to do the handle, but at least we are not messing up our DB. At least the app is not crashing if you are passing the wrong data, which is, let's say, the bare minimum. This is not production ready code, of course. So update the user, and here, so if we want to update a user, we need to go on a specific URL indicating the ID and the new body. So here we need both this ID, which is the PK, I think stands for primary key, and then the body. And then we do this save. As you can see, the method is the same here. So we are just, so this is handled automatically. Now the last one, delete a user. Delete, we have a function, and of course we need to just get the user and dot delete. This is it's very good. I have to say that in 48 lines of code, included the comments and imports, we have a very powerful and reusable views API controller. So I like this part of Django. Okay, now we have these functions. How do we let our users to use them? We can do this in different ways, but one way for sure is to create a file called urls.py. This part is very important. Inside the Django app folder. And as you can see, now we have two files. This is a bit messy. We have in the Django project, which is the project, this file that's already been created automatically with this admin. We didn't touch it. But then we want the routes of our resource. We can do different ways, but I want this to be handled inside this Django app folder, and then we will import this URLs file in some ways inside this main urls.py. But it's not, I'm not editing the urls.py file. I created a new file called urls.py in the Django app folder. I got crazy with this at the beginning because I want to change this, but why does it has already some stuff? No. So let's go here. And then we can say from django.urls, we can import the path. So basically we are importing the logic of checking the path. And then I think here from here we import this views file, which is basically the controller, but I don't want to change the name of the file because I'm lazy. And now URL patterns. And here I think it's kind of understandable what's going on. I'll use GitHub Copilot, but then I'll double check if the name of the folders are correct. And we don't need this name. I think you can use it if you need it, but I don't need it. I want to keep. So if you go on users, we get all the users. No, I don't like it. Because this will be a sub path. We will have the /users path in the other file. So on users / we will get all the users. Then if we want to create, let's do create here. Create, we will call the function views add user. If we want to update, now if we want to read, let's say path, let's see here, read. This is to get a single user, this is to update a user, and this is to delete a user, and then we can close it. Now let me check if this is working. Okay, add user, okay, get user, okay, update user, okay, and delete user. Okay, I don't have here the possibility to click, but okay. Nice. So we created the URLs for this project. Now we need to import this file. You remember in this urls.py file, and here we need to just do a couple of changes. Oh, I don't like this. Let me remove. Oh, let me remove this. It's too long. Okay. So path include, because I want to include some subpath. Include, and then we have the path of the admin that we are not gonna touch, but then we have this path called users. I'll show when we will do the example using Postman. I'll understand what's going on here. So again, so we are adding this set of URLs, routes here. It's very similar to Express, to be honest, and here we are getting the Django app .urls, which are those ones. Be very careful with the slashes in Django, because otherwise, as you can see here, no, I want to, I don't know if I like this, let's remove the slashes here, okay? Nice, and now let's go on an interesting part. So the interesting part here is that now I will create a Django.sh file, and now I'll explain you why, because I got a bit crazy with this, because in other technologies we have a sort of ORM that creates the table automatically for us. In case of Django, we need to create some sort of migrations based on our model, and then we need to apply these migrations. Applying a migration, it means that to update the structure of a database based on some information. Since we are using Docker, I want this to happen in just one single command. And it is also the perfect use case to show you how you can define a set of informations when you run a Dockerfile. Okay, so, moment, okay. Now, let's create this bash script. So we have bin bash. This is an sh file that we will use. So, and here we have, we need to create the migration, create migrations, migrations, sorry. Then we need to make the migrations for the Django app file. And then we can do this is just for the output. You will see this later. Let's see, no. Here, oh, let's go. So we'll create the migration with this command, Python manage py make migration. Then we need to migrate with just this command and this. And then finally we start the project. So start server, okay? Run server, and we run this on 0000 dot, no, this is comma 8000. Okay, so this will allow us to handle the migration directly when we will run the Docker container. This is, I think it's very convenient, and also this is an excuse to check something on the Docker file that we're about to write just now. So let's create a file called Dockerfile with capital D. You see also this icon, and here we are defining the steps to create the Docker image based on this project. Now and here we need to, first of all, we need to define the initial image. So we don't start from scratch, of course. We start from Python 3.7.3 stretch. This is the version. I think it's a bit smaller. Then we need to put this, okay, this is something that you might see in some tutorial. So basically this env Python unbuffered one, it's basically to have this, to have the output unbuffered. So I just want the output to go in the terminal. I don't want this to be in a buffer. So usually This is a practice that I saw this very often. And now we can define a work dir. The work dir is basically just a folder that we create inside the image file system, and then we can install the dependencies. So we copy the requirements.txt file. I think it is better, otherwise it's a bit confusing. Then we install the dependencies first. So first of all, we just copy the requirements.txt file and we install the dependencies. And then we copy all the rest. In this case, I don't need a docker ignore, but if you want, you can add it. Basically, docker ignore is to, if you don't want some files, or maybe, I don't know, you added some parts, you can do. In this case, I don't need it, so I'm not gonna do it. So expose is basically to inform that we are using a specific port. In this case, is 8000. And now, instead of the usual CMD file, something that maybe it happened to you to see in case you worked with Docker for a while. So we are doing an entry point. So, and this is very powerful. Django.sh. Okay. Nice. So instead of doing a CMD file, we are saying entry point app/Django.sh. So we will basically run this Django.sh file. Okay. Why? Because we don't want just to run the server, but I also want to do, I don't know, other two commands. Okay. And this is very powerful, because otherwise we should run the server, then enter with docker exec, and then we should do the commands inside the running container, but this should be like a procedure, so we are not getting, this is not convenient. Nice. Now, one more file and then we should be done. docker-compose.yml. Nice. So a docker-compose file is a file, unsurprisingly, when we want to define some services. So we define first of all the version. I don't know why. Okay. Usually the pilot doesn't give me options. Of course, in this case, it gave me. So we want here to define. A couple of services. One services are basically containers. A Django app with a container name. Django app. So this will be the name of the container when we will run it. Build. It means build here. Build basically needs a Dockerfile. And then ports 8000. And then the environment variable. Probably I'll do some mistake here. So in the environment variable, we want pg_user, where we have 5 environment variables. The user of the DB, the password of the DB, which is also Postgres, the host of the DB, which is not Postgres, but is DB, is the name of the service that we want to connect to. And then, maybe here, pgdb Postgres, which is the name of the database. Postgres creates automatically a database named Postgres when you run Postgres. I think I said Postgres like 5 times. And now pgport 5432. Depends on, might be useful. In our case, we will not use it directly because we will run the services one by one. And now the other service, which is DB. And I think you saw this already sometimes, but this is basically the database, the Postgres database running inside a container as image. I usually use Postgres 12 because I know that this does work, and it's good. It's good to know that something is working. And here, don't change these key value pairs because those are the keys defined by Postgres. Now the ports 5432 and volumes. Volumes are basically to handle persistency when we use containers. Containers are processes, so they don't have persistency by default. Volumes. Data. Nice. So we are done with writing all the files. Now we need to to check if this does work. I'm gonna put this so the YML file is happy. Okay, nice. Let's take a sip, and then we will start running first of all the database and then the app. So how can we run these containers? So we started doing docker compose app-d, which stands for detached db. db is the name of this service and also the name of the container. Let's try. Okay. We can do docker ps-a. And we see that here we have this container up and running. Okay. Now let's check with table plus. This is the old test. Let's remove it. Okay. Let's create a new connection with the Postgres DB. Here, since I am on my machine, I will access using localhost, not DB, because this is not running in a container inside Docker Compose 5432. The user is Postgres. I copy, and the reason why I call it every Postgres because I can do this. Now we can do a test. Connection is okay, and if I connect to DB, okay, we have because I made the test. Okay, 1 second. Let me do something. Docker compose down, because it's using the same volume. Docker compose down -b. So this is an excuse for me to do something. So basically I created this container, but the volume has not been deleted. So let's remove. How can you delete a volume? Docker compose down -v, and it will delete the volume because I named the volume exactly the same. This is why there were some data, we can say. Let's try again. But it's interesting. It's interesting to it's an excuse for me to show stuff. And here we have an empty DB. Okay, so the reason why you saw something, it's because I ran this container in this demo, but I already had a volume called like this pg data before the live stream. So it basically reconnected to my old volume, but I nuked everything and I started it from scratch. So docker compose down -v, or you can do just docker volume rm, and we can delete. You see, I have different, because the name of the folder is exactly the same because I'm doing the same steps. Nice. Now we just need just 2 more steps and the test. So docker compose app. To be honest, when I am alone, I just do docker compose app, because docker compose app checks all the images, and if it doesn't have the image, it builds it. But let's do instead docker compose build Django app. Okay, so this is to understand all the steps. So first we build the image and then we run it. But you can try just with docker compose app. It works. In many tutorials you see just docker compose app and brrr, everything is working, or maybe it's not working. But for sometimes maybe you have an error while building an image, especially with Java. And in this case, so docker compose app, Django app. To be honest, I don't have to type Django app because docker compose app runs all the services, and if the service is already up and running, it just runs the remaining services. But I want to be very clear that we are running this service now. But you can try docker compose app, it works. In here, I don't push -d. Let's see. So let's see what happens, because usually I can have some error here. Okay, nice. So let's check this for a moment. So you see, okay, so we create the model operation. Okay, so can you see these equals? They were in the Django.sh file. You see, I created this to see what's going on. An very important part is this one. You see, I have some migrations, admin, out. I don't know. I don't like that we have all these files when I want to create an app. But I like to start from scratch. But it's very important that you have also these, because these are the migrations that we created here. Okay, no, not here, but we have it inside the Docker image. We are doing this everything at container level, not on this local folder. Okay, And then we have all of these, and this is very important, applying Django app 001 initial. Okay, so it means that it created the structure. Let's see if it's happened or not. So let me refresh. Nice. And we see here a bunch of tables. Honestly, I don't care. But here, the important part is this one, Django app underscore user. This is the table I defined. You see ID, name, email. This is my custom one, okay? Okay, an interesting thing is that it also has an ID. Because here in the model I don't define, but by default, in our model we have the ID also with the auto increment. Now we need to test it, and to test it we will use Postman. Let's see. It's still not sure that it's working, but let's see. Let's go here. Okay, so to make all the requests, I recommend to have this configuration with Postman, so, or with every tool. So these are the headers that I'm adding. So especially this content type application JSON, maybe it's not given there by default. So here we can go, let's check the URLs. So we have the users, and here we have blank. So this does mean that if I go on users, let's try like this, we should get an empty array of users. Okay. Now, let's try something else. To create a user, in this case, we need to create this user. So we need to go on users slash create. Okay, this is the structure of the API. So let's go here, users slash create. We need to provide a body, so let's use this one, which is my classic insert, and let's try to make this post request. Let's see. We have this file, and as you can see here, we have this ID 1. So this was the default. Okay, nice. Let's create a couple of more. Insert. Okay, id2, as you can see, usually I have this approach, which is very brainless. Okay, now I created 3 users with a name and email. Let's try to get all the users again. As you can see, we have these 3 users. We can also try with the browser, just to have a different interface. This is the dev. As you can see here, we have the 3 users. It's okay, it's red on yellow. And let's check also on table plus, just because I want to see in different ways. As you can see, you have this AA, A, B, 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 C, C, C. 2 more and we are done. So we need now to update any user. So if to update a user, we go on users slash update here, update, and also the ID that we want to modify. Let's say that I want to update the ID 2 with my name. So Francesco and Francesco email. These are not emails, are just strings, but just to have an idea. So let's see. As you can see, we have now this Francesco mail. I forgot to show you that how we can get a single user. So we can go on users slash read, because this is how we created the API. So as you can see here, this is a string. str stands for string. PK, I think it stands for parameter. So PK is parameter, not primary key. Okay. And let's get it. So this is a single user. Let's try to read the second one that we updated. There we go, with Francesco. And now let's try to delete one user. So let's see an example. We have the 3 users here, 1, 3, and 2. The order has changed because we updated the user. And then let's try to delete the user /delete. This is how we defined the route, the URL. And here we can go with let's delete the user number, 1. We don't need this. Item, it says item instead of user, but it's okay. Get all the users. Done.